Lance acknowledged that he could owe her a talk, but he made it apparent that he didn't feel obligated to give her a thorough explanation. It wasn't that deep, he said. To be honest, he had some supporters. Was it even his duty to inform her? If Destiny and Lance weren't actually speaking in that manner at the time? Fans are divided over that question. Destiny didn't stop there, though. When she later met with the ladies, she brought up her frustration. Naturally, Kimmy was quick to point out the obvious, since she is Kimmy. Were you even talking to Lance? During that time, she asked Destiny directly. Furthermore, Destiny didn't really have a good response. Therefore, Kimmy made it obvious in her cool-headed but forceful manner. Why are you acting as though you were entitled to some sort of disclosure if you weren't even in contact with the man? Fans began to believe that Destiny might have been exaggerating at that point, or, as some have described it, putting a 10 on a 2. She seemed to want to make a greater issue out of something that was no longer even active in her life. However, it didn't end there, 'cause Lance was also accused of being dodgy by Destiny. She mentioned that she wanted to go out with Ken's pal, that tall drink of water. Do any of you recall that? Even though she was still in contact with Lance, it was obvious that she was considering moving on. It was then revealed that Destiny had been flirting with Twan, who also happens to be her godson, which further complicated the situation. Her godson, you heard correctly. She was still connected to Lance in some manner despite all of this. I don't know what sounds messier than that. Who in this situation is betraying whom? Is Destiny wrong for teasing other guys while still attempting to hold Lance responsible? Or is Lance bad for keeping her in the dark about the baby? Let's also take a moment to discuss Lance because his perspective adds even more drama to this situation. He talked candidly about how difficult his life has been since the baby was born. He's trying to raise his child, manage a construction company, and maintain his composure all at once has put him under a lot of stress. He talked about the amount of commitment it takes to be a father and how exhausted he has been physically, emotionally, and intellectually. And from his description, it sounded as though he had the baby full-time. Many others asked, where is the baby mama? After seeing it, why doesn't anyone mention her? What's the real deal here? If Lance has this baby day and night, 'cause fans are fed up with the producers hiding important aspects of the cast member's life, and because that information has been omitted. You cannot simply introduce a baby into the plot without revealing the mother's location. The audience won't be treated fairly. However, Destiny was more concerned with what she didn't know, even while Lance was talking about his difficulties. Angry at being excluded, she redirected the topic back to herself rather than offering him support as he attempted to juggle job and fatherhood. It nearly gave the impression that she was indifferent to his situation. Finally, she went to his mother Nail and asked her questions. Let's take a moment to stop here. Are grown adults seeking answers from each other's parents? It doesn't look good. Destiny, those talks ought to have been with Lance directly, rather than his mother if you two were truly a match. Fans thought that rather than recognizing that. The relationship was over. Destiny was reaching out and trying to find drama wherever she could. And when the women came together, the situation simply grew worse. Letitia sat down with Kimmy and Destiny to talk about some of these challenges, and Kimmy once again raised the important questions. She reminded Destiny of why she felt so entitled to information about Lance's life since she wasn't even talking to him at the moment. Lance acknowledged that he could have owed Destiny a talk, but not a complete breakdown, as Kimmy also noted. And to be honest, that seems reasonable, because, let's face it, you owe each other nothing if you aren't together and conversing for a period. However, Destiny refused to let it go. She kept thinking about how Lance ought to have told her, because there wasn't enough substance elsewhere. People began to speculate that perhaps Destiny was merely exploiting this as a plot point. Let's not pretend that Destiny hasn't been occupied with her personal affairs as she has. She has been, concentrating on her Madani brand and her TikTok life. Fans have observed some changes even there, though. A lot of her products and promotions that used to be on TikTok have disappeared. And many are starting to wonder if she's placed her business on the back burner in favor of the show. She even acknowledged in one of her talks that, as a single mother, earning money occasionally had to take precedence over friendships or social gatherings. People are giving her the side eye since it appears like she is losing her balance, even though that is true. Is she overinvesting in drama and underinvesting in her brand? Viewers are also discussing that question. Letitia and Kimmy, meanwhile, contributed their own viewpoints. Because Marsa works at Black, is often away, and is rarely home. Letitia has her own marital problems. Since season 1, that has been her recurring plot, and it hasn't been resolved. Even Kimmy, who usually speaks with composure and reason, was unable to overlook Destiny's contradictions. Letitia and Kimmy both raised their eyebrows when Destiny compared Nail to her mother-in-law. Because if that's the case, why are you still attempting to keep Lance around while flirting, running about with other men, and engaging in side chats? There was an error in the maths. And let's be honest, Destiny's behavior hasn't helped her cause. She appears disorganized when she flirts with Twan, shows interest in Ken's buddy, and continues to act as though Lance owes her money. Lance, meanwhile, is over here attempting to be there for his child, while coping with the true burden of fatherhood and acknowledging his own exhaustion. Who betrayed whom, if we are being honest? Because it appears from the perspective of the fans that neither side was acting with consistency, honesty, or dedication. It's unclear who the true victim is, which is why this story has gone viral. While some contend that Destiny deceived Lance by not being totally faithful and by subsequently inflating the circumstance, others contend that Lance betrayed Destiny by hiding the baby from her. And now is where I want you to give it some serious thought. Would you feel deceived by Lance's failure to inform you about the baby if you were Destiny? Or would you realize that it wasn't really your concern if you weren't even talking to him? Conversely, would Destiny's relationships with other guys while she was still with you make you feel betrayed if you were Lance? Since there is no simple solution, these are the questions that make this problem so complex. Okay? Because I'm breaking this down piece by piece. You should stick with me through to the conclusion. You'll have a completely new perspective once you realize how all of the talks relate to one another. Now, as the women continued to converse, things began to go south. Letitia interrupted with her typical side commentary. Kimmy attempted to mediate, and Destiny continued to stand her stance. However, the topic of discussion soon turned to even more drama, touching on Martell's actions and other cast members. At that point, it became evident that this was about more than simply Destiny and Lance. The group as a whole and how each member responds to loyalty, honesty, and treachery were the topics of discussion. Because, in the end, you can't select what the public learns if you're going to share your life on a reality program. Fans are pointing out that there are too many unanswered questions, too many half-truths, and too many missing pieces. So, did Lance betray Destiny, or did Destiny betray Lance? In actuality, each of them contributed to this separation, while Lance concealed secrets that further strengthened Destiny's suspicions. She felt entitled to facts that might not have been hers to demand. A recipe for disaster is created when you combine the flirtation, outside connections, the strain of a new baby, and the continual pressure of being on television. It is evident that neither party is entirely blameless, which explains why this separation seems so tumultuous. The actual drama is found in the gray area, which is not black and white. And believe me when I say that this story isn't finished yet, so stay with me. The more these discussions go on, the more secrets come to light, and the more the cast members unknowingly disclose themselves. You'll discover how profound this betrayal truly is by the end, and you'll understand why fans are unable to stop discussing it.